Sahanavavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Saha Viryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So in the last class, we saw that Lord Krishna says what is an avatara. So avatara is this all knowledge. Generally, when it manifests as one particular form, it follows law of karma, right? So that means it gives that manifestation according to what? Your punya and papa. Here, this one manifestation is peculiar because it does not follow the laws of punya and papa. It just comes into being to accomplish a given task. Okay? So this is where, that's why that form is like any other form, right? But it is not come due to what? One's own karma, which is punya papa, which limits it, right? And the ignorance about the nature of I. So this is why you call it avatara, because as Preeti was saying, what is the mission of life is to remove that veil, right? Now this particular form comes without a veil, doesn't come with a normal veil that is there for everyone. That's why you call it an avatar. Okay? Now having said that, the more interesting part is the next verse where Lord Krishna makes a statement which is a complete revolutionary statement, and then we will see verse 9. Janma karma cha me divyam evam yo veti tattvataha tyaktva deham punarjanma naiti mameti sorjuna. You will repeat after me. I will chant 1/4 and you will repeat after me. Janma karma cha me divyam.
Janma karma cha me divyam.
Evam yo veti tattvataha.
Evam yo veti tattvataha.
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 Tyaktva deham punarjanma.
Tattva deham punarjanma.
Naiti mameti sorjuna.
Naiti mameti sorjuna.
Okay. Now, what is the literal translation? And then we will see what it means. Right? Here he says, the one who knows in reality my divine birth and action in this way, Arjuna, giving up the body, that person is not born again. He attains me. Wow! What is all this? Right? So this is where actually Savita wanted to continue the inquiry of Mandukya Upanishad, and now Lord Krishna wants us to continue the inquiry, because unless you continue the inquiry, you will not know what this verse is talking about. Okay? So now let's continue the inquiry. The inquiry was that I think I am this individual. This individual has three aspects. One is the physical body, the second is the subtle body, and the third is the causal body. Okay? That's how we started, and then we started what? Slowly saying that this physical body, which I think is my nature, actually it is what? An object of my awareness. Okay? So its different conditions are known to me. The cells which organize and make this into a body are not I. That's why they keep going. Every few hours cells have gone and new have come. Okay? So the cells come and go. I am the very much who remains. So therefore, the cells are not I. The cells that constitute this body are not I. Okay. So therefore, this body also is not I. Okay. The second thing we said is it's an, and then we saw something even more interesting. Okay. One thing is to say this body is an object of my awareness and it is not I. The second thing is to say that this body, which is an object of my awareness, is actually not even a real tangible reality. Okay? Because we saw that body is just a name, okay, with so many different parts put together, and each part in return what is so many different parts put together, and so everything is just forms within forms within forms within forms. So not only it's an object, but it is something which is actually what? Mithya all the way. And as Preeti said, what is the mithya? Dependent reality, dependent reality, dependent reality. Ultimately it lands where? On knowledge. Okay? So this is what we saw. So therefore now, this physical body is not I, but it is one of the manifestation of what? Ishvara. That's what we saw. Okay? Then the subtle body and all the subtle functions. The subtle body includes what? The 19 different functions, right? The capacity of my sense, of the sense organs, organs of action, pancha prana, right? And then the 4 modes of thinking. You remember? Buddha, you want to remind them?
Which one? Panch prana.
No, 19.
5 organs of
So
action,
yes.
5 sense organs,
Yes.
pancha prana,
Yes.
and 4 of mind, chitta, memory, buddhi, memory, mind and ahankara.
Okay, excellent. So everybody knows that now. That is what we call subtle. Okay. Now even the subtle body, which is what? Not just my eyes, but the sight, right? Something because of which my physical eye can see. That is something which is subtle. Okay. Now that is something also, is it I or is it an object of my awareness? It's an object of my awareness because it keeps varying. Over my lifetime, the sight keeps varying, the physical eye remains the same, right? So this is where even the physical eye undergoes change because the cellular structures also undergo change, right? But also the sight undergoes change. And that is something which is known by me. So now this subtle body, which I thought was an integral part of I, is actually reduced to an object. Okay? And even that sight itself is what? A function of, is it something which is not only an object, it is what? Also what? Dependent reality. Why is it a dependent reality?
Because it's made up of all the same sort of way, made up of all the molecules, all the cells,
Exactly.
and that goes.
Right, right. There's so many factors make my sight what it is. So it is a dependent reality. And ultimately it all just collapses dependent within dependent. And then where does it end? All knowledge. Okay. So therefore now this so-called entity that I thought I was, okay, which is the physical aspect, is taken away, saying that it's actually an object. Remember Tattva Buddha, Sthula Sharira Vyatiriktaha Atma. Remember? Right? Sukshma Sharira Vyatiriktaha Atma. This is what is being said. Okay? Atma, I, is something which is independent of what? The subtle body. Okay? Now, that's what we saw in the morning class. Now, what about the causal? The causal body constitutes of what? The unseen result of your actions. Right? Punya and Papa. That then is a causal body which then gives rise to many different bodies. Okay? Now is Punya and Papa I or not?
No.
No. Why?
It's changing.
Because I will be changing.
Exactly. I am the one who performs an action. Okay? I am not the action. Right? And the punya is not only the action but the unseen result of the action. It's not I. Okay? So now, oh my God, I thought I was physical, subtle, I've really nicely noted down everything and I made a nice chart and I understood very well that I am this. I mugged up also the Sanskrit names and everything. I thought everything was well in order. Right? And now Vedanta says, hey, wait a minute. None of these three are really you. Okay? They are object of your awareness. Okay? And they are not only object of your awareness, but they also enjoy just that the objects are not real entities in the first place. Okay? They themselves are what? Forms within forms within forms. They have a dependent reality and it all collapses in what? Into all knowledge. So that means even this punya and papa account, right? Who keeps it all and who arranges it? That this, out of all these different punya papa, this many have to come and give you what? This physical body and this subtle mind. It all is dependent on what? All knowledge. Right? So that means now it is another amazing new discovery. Okay? That this I, that I thought was very, very clear to me now, is now in fact none of the three are actually I. They are an object of my awareness and this so-called object itself keeps on collapsing and lands up in all knowledge. Then the question is, what is this fourth one? Which is really who I am. Yes, she is like, oh yeah, now tell me, what is this fourth one? Right? What is this fourth one, which is what I am? Go back to Surya's meditation this morning. Remember what he was saying, between two thoughts. Pay attention to what is.
Is it just consciousness?
Excellent. Right? That now on the spot. Correct. Okay? But I want to, this is the right answer, but I have to go back one step a little bit earlier before coming to this answer. Okay? In between two thoughts, what we saw is there is silence. Right? So there is a thought, then there is a silence, then there is a thought. Okay? Now in that variable, thought, silence, thought, silence, thought, silence, thought, silence, what is that which observes going and coming of what? A thought arises, the thought goes, silence emerges, silence goes, next thought arises. What is that because of which you come to know the silence as well as thought, and that is consciousness. When the thought is there, consciousness is very much present to know that there is a thought. When the thought goes, consciousness is very much present, okay, to know the absence of thought. When the next thought arises, consciousness is still very much there to know that the next thought has come. Okay? So the consciousness is something which is invariable. That is the fourth. The fourth is called Chit. The chit is what we call chit, because you think, generally you have this orientation that all I am. First of all, you didn't even know who you are, right? I mean, before coming to Vedanta, you just had some really vague idea about who I am. Vedanta first gave you a structure and said, okay, now there are three aspects: the physical, the subtle, and the causal. Okay? Then it says, actually, none of it is you. They are all just object of your awareness. Okay? Who you are is the consciousness. So that is what we say, you are chit svabhavaha, your consciousness. Okay? Now, generally, one would think that if all three go, what will remain? You will think what? Nothing will remain. Okay? It says, hey, please don't make that mistake. It is the silliest mistake to make. Right? Don't say nothing remains. Because I am is something which definitely remains. The physical body is an object of my awareness. The subtle body is an object of my awareness. Okay? The causal body is also what? Object of my understanding. So that I am something which is there. You can't conclude that it is not there. It is in form of chit, awareness, which is sat. Sat means it is existent. Don't think there is shunyata. Don't think that there is void. Don't think that the reality is nothingness. It is chit, and chit is sat, it is existence, right? And that chit and sat is what we say is your true nature. Now that is also what? Ananda. What is this Ananda? In order to understand what is this Ananda, now we leave this and say, okay, I am consciousness. Okay. If I am consciousness, which is distinct from the physical, subtle and causal body, and if you are consciousness, which is distinct from your physical, subtle and causal body, and if Shona is awareness or consciousness, which is distinct from her physical, subtle and causal body, how many awarenesses are there?
As many bodies.
As many bodies. Is it true? Only one. Why? Only one, correct. Why?
It comes from the same intelligence, the same knowledge.
Oh my God, okay, now that is correct, but I have to explain, right? If I were to attribute, I said, okay, my awareness is different from Shona's awareness, I have to give some attribute to my awareness which makes it different from her awareness. What would be the attribute? The attribute can only be in terms of what? The physical characteristic, the subtle characteristics or the causal characteristics. In terms of the physical body, her body is different from mine, no doubt. Okay? In terms of my mind is different from her mind. My causes, which makes my body what it is and my mind what it is, are different from her causes. Okay? But these are already negated as not I. In that awareness, what attribute will you give, which will, I can say, when I say this table is different from that table, there is one attribute that belongs to that table which is different from this table. This table has this much height and that table has a different height. This table has this much width and that table has that much width. Okay? Now, if in order to establish that my awareness is different from your awareness, I have to give some attribute to my awareness which will make it different from your awareness. Can I find any attribute of awareness which is different? The differences are only at the level of physical, subtle and causal, which is already negated as not I.
So would you say that we all come from the common source of consciousness like the common ocean, but we all take on our waveforms based on our characteristics that are physical, subtle and causal?
Exactly. Exactly. in this there is a slight difference which I will talk about later, but more or less
Conceptual.
yes, right? Yeah.
And would you use the word awareness synonymously with consciousness? No.
Awareness and
Yeah.
Consciousness.
awareness, chit, in Sanskrit it is chit, right? The chit can be translated as awareness or consciousness. The consciousness is used, in English language, consciousness is used with reference to being conscious, right? Like this body is still connected to the
So it's
body.
more the subtle implication, but
It is because in Sanskrit it is chit, right? I need to translate. Now, very often we do translate as consciousness, but what I see is when I talk to people, they already have an idea of what consciousness is. So that comes in the way of understanding the consciousness that Vedanta is talking about. So that's why I use the word awareness, but both can be used equally, right? Okay. So therefore, this awareness or this consciousness, right, is attributeless. And it does not have division. Like, I will give you an example. Okay. Now, this is what we call cup space, right? And that is what we call bottle space. Are there many spaces? How many spaces are there?
it's one space, it's what's contained within that.
Exactly. Does the space get cut by this glass? No. Right? When the glass moves from here to here, does the space move along with the glass? No. The glass moves in space. The space is as it is. Okay? So that means between this space and that space is actually only one. As though appears to be what? Confined by what? The
This
glass,
physical form.
the bottle, the jug. It seems like many spaces here. That cup, here, here, in my stomach, in your stomach, in your stomach. There seems to be many spaces as though confined to different structures. But in reality, how many spaces are there? One. Undivided. One undivided. Within one undivided space within which all the bodies move. Similarly, awareness seems to be what? Confined to what? This particular entity which is what? Within physical, subtle and the causal bodies. But awareness, it seems to be that there are many awarenesses, all confined within what? Because when you come to know that I am that awareness, so that is there is awareness for you also, right? You also, just as I negate my physical body as an object, my subtle body as an object, my causal body as an object, you do the same, right? Then what remains is this awareness. The awareness has no attributes, it's one. As though confined to what? Different bodies.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
When we spoke about the causal body, we spoke about all knowledge. So,
Yes.
actually we couldn't cover how all knowledge is negated in the earlier class.
Yeah. So now we are doing, let's first look at I, then we will come back to all knowledge. Lovely question. Lovely question, Uddhav. My next point is that you are just little too early. You're right. Okay. So that is going to be the next analysis. Right? We will do that. Because then only what he is saying is absolutely right. We need to do that. But let's first finish this, then we go on to that. Right? Yeah. So that means now when I inquire into the nature of I, what I come to is what? None of what? The physical body, there are how many? There are many. The subtle bodies, how many? Many. We are not trying to collapse that. Please understand. We are not trying to have thoughtlessness and therefore one awareness. That is silly. Okay? The physical body are many, right? The subtle body are many. The causal bodies are many, okay, but the awareness is only one. Awareness has no division. It seems to be confined to all these physical bodies and all these subtle bodies and all these causal bodies. Awareness is attribute freedom. Physical body has attributes, the mind has attributes, the subtle body has attributes, the causal has attributes. Obviously, all of them have attributes. Awareness is attribute free. Yes? Now, let's move to, now that's what we have come to, but because Lord Krishna is saying the one who knows my birth and death, tattvataha, the reality of my birth and death accurately, is the person who's freed from what? Janma, Mrityu, which is this cycle. So now we have to, just as we did at this part of an individual, now we have to do what? For Ishvara part. Okay. What is, there is one side where we saw what? Vishwa, and then we saw what? The entire physical world. If one physical body is what? Mithya, then every body is the same thing which applies. Even for Virat, because Virat, this is what I am saying. At physical level, when we are talking about the Samashti part, which is Ishvara, we have what? Virat. Right? So that means we have what? Entire physical universe.
And even that is dependent.
Exactly. Because entire physical universe includes what? Your body, my body, the body of what? An animal, the body of what? The bird. Each body is what? It has an independent reality or a dependent reality? Dependent reality. Each body is what? Just a name of many different things put together. Okay? So that means this complex body, no matter what body it is, it's a fish body because the entire Virat includes all bodies. But they are also nothing but atoms and particles. In fact, the quantum physics has done great service to Vedanta by showing mithyatvam of the whole universe. The bodies are different, but actually each body is mithya because it's forms within forms, within forms, within forms. Ultimately, it's nothing but, some atoms and particles roaming around and arranged in a given permutation and combination to give form, what? This form. Okay. So that means not only Vishwa is mithya, the entire Virat, which includes the entire physical world, is also mithya. Okay? Then what about, because the entire physical world not only includes what? All the living beings, it also includes what? Mountain, it includes sun, it includes moon, it includes planets, it includes stars. Because physical world means physical world, not just living physical bodies, right? The sun. Let's take the sun to whom we pray, right? Every day, beautifully. Okay. What is it? The physical sun. What is it? Surya has all these science knowledge. So Surya, you tell us. What is physical sun?
According to anybody knows what is the sun?
Surya.
Thank you. I didn't see that.
That's so sweet.
In fact, there is one sentence in the Upanishad which is saying that. It's okay. That is
Follow the joke. His name means sun.
Yes.
in fact, the sun, what is happening if you look at the sun, you can see it at the physical level like a process of fusion. There is a fusion of elements, and this fusion of different elements make all this energy, let's say, be liberated. So more specifically, it is about the fusion of different helium atoms into hydrogen.
Into hydrogen.
Hydrogen. And what is happening is that as the sun is shining, what is provoking this shine is the fusion every second of the equivalent of 100,000 elephants, let's say in weight. So the weight of 100,000 elephants per second of helium is getting converted into hydrogen. This is happening. This is what is happening inside the sun.
So the helium is getting what? Because of fusion, gets converted into hydrogen, and this is what makes the sun what the sun is. Okay? So this sun entity again has a dependent reality, because this sun entity, this beautiful globe that we see, is nothing but what? Helium.
And then the photons of the light which is emitted is nothing than photons. The photons are the result of this process of fusion. And now, even here itself, they are full of photons here. This is giving this light, which makes us live here.
And do they also say that the sun's heat would exhaust after some time?
Yes, exactly.
Some
Yeah.
billion years?
In, I think, 3 or 4 billion years, so we have time, it's okay.
No, I mean to say it's also not permanent.
Exactly, it's
Yes.
permanent. Absolutely, right? So that means not only the physical body is mithya, the entire physical universe that you see is equally mithya.
It's only manifest.
It is
Sun
only
also
manifest. Absolutely, is equally just manifestation, right? It is forms within forms. The sun is nothing but what? Helium. Okay? And helium itself is what, Surya?
Helium is an atom, so it will
Is
be
an
made
atom.
of particles also.
And then again particles, right? So that means just as this body is nothing but what permutations of atoms and particles which configure to make into this very intelligent body with all these different organs, the sun is equally nothing but atoms and particles which then organizes itself differently through different permutation and combination to serve a totally different function. Okay? But the fact remains that not only Vishwa but also the Virat is mithya. Not only one physical body but the total physical universe is mithya. Okay? So now from Ishvara's reality, which is all knowledge, you have taken away Virat as mithya. Because this Virat, the physical forms, it depends upon all knowledge, but all knowledge doesn't depend upon the physical forms. The all knowledge organizes atoms and particles in different permutations and combinations to create the entire physical universe, which is what we call Virat. And that Virat is a dependent reality. It depends on what? On knowledge. Do you get this? Now, what is left of Ishvara? Hiranyagarbha, the total subtle.
Just to make it real, the sun is one thing, but this mithya of this Virat, you can even as you are coming out, even in this room itself, you can examine each of the object. See, she has examined the table during the first class.
And the physical body.
And the physical body, and also the sari she had examined, if I remember well.
Yes.
You can do this same inquiry with reference to anything. This you can do, this you can do,
Yes.
the curtain you can do, the light you can do, the mountain you can do, the wall, everything. You can reduce it and see that it is depending upon something else and something else and something else. You take one name, which is the wall, then you will end up in so many different other names. Then each of these different names will collapse into other names, another name. So you can do that. You have fun when you will go out. Really, make it real. I mean, make it like something which is like you can see very clearly. It's not something abstract.
Particles everywhere.
Yeah. There is no this apparent solidity and tangibility and absolute reality we give to what we call these objects. It's only mithya. This is what you have to see very, I mean, it's like something so obvious. Once you know that you have the key, it's very obvious.
Okay. So now, from the individual, all three went, and what remained was Chit, Sat and Chit. Okay. Now, the other side, which Uddhav wanted me to do, when we look into Ishvara, Virat goes as mithya. The entire physical world goes as these tangible objects that we see have a dependent reality. They what? Atoms and particles, and ultimately what? All knowledge. Then we see the entire subtle universe, which is what we call what? Hiranyagarbha. Just as one mind and subtle functions are mithya, what? Every subtle function is equally mithya. Yeah. I repeat, if I do this, because what is the Hiranyagarbha? The total subtle. Right? So with reference to my subtle, what is the examination that I did? That my sight is changing. You do the same with reference to your subtle. She does same with reference to her subtle. So for everyone, what? Everybody's subtle is mithya. Right? So Hiranyagarbha, which stands for everybody's subtle, is what? Equally mithya. My God. Not only this reality of myself is going, but slowly, slowly the reality of Ishvara is also going. Vedanta is something else. Okay? So that means even the Virat is collapsed in all knowledge. The Hiranyagarbha is also collapsed in all knowledge. Now, only what remains is what? All knowledge on one side, and then what? Chit on the other side. Okay? Now, Ishvara, when I am looking at Ishvara, okay, this reality about Ishvara, this I am of Ishvara, okay, is it really all knowledge and all power? Or it has an even more fundamental reality?
There's a potential.
Yeah, even because that Ishvara, when I say there is all knowledge and all power which has the potential. Okay, so that is what we call Ishvara. So then, because I am left with two entities, I am left with what? Sat, Chit, Ananda, which what she says Brahman, right? Sat, Chit is Brahman, right? And then I am left with what? All knowledge. Now I need to find out the relationship between which one has a bigger reality.
Which one is
More
always
fundamental,
there?
exactly. Which one is always there?
I know something.
Rashna knows it. Rashna, say it.
No, Majmudar, please, I learned it the last time I remember.
Yeah, so that's wonderful. So then you have to say it because that's
And I
what.
have to explain. The big, the number.
Exactly. So what is this? Okay, let's not, because we are not yet
Full,
used.
okay, it's the full
It's now
Awareness.
Awareness. Excellent. Okay. So what Rashna says is that between this all knowledge and awareness, who wins? What wins is awareness. And the answer is right. But unfortunately, since you gave the right answer, you also have to explain it.
Won't try.
You have to try it.
awareness is needed for Ishvara to be able to manifest itself. Yes? And then all the other things come into play. This is all I can say.
No, what she's saying is right? Now, when we are talking about Ishvara right now, we have already taken care of what? Virat as what? Mithya. We have taken care of as what? The Hiranyagarbha as Mithya. So, only thing we are dealing with is all knowledge. Okay? All knowledge is what we are. Sarvagnya. Sarvagnya is what we are dealing with. Okay? So, now you ask yourself this question as she is saying, okay, that what is the relationship between all knowledge and awareness? Can all knowledge exist without awareness? No. Does the awareness need all knowledge to be? No. Right? Because just your intelligence, what is for your intelligence to exist, you first need what? Awareness. Then you can think about intelligence. You think about all intelligence, what is a precondition for that all intelligence? You need awareness. You need consciousness. Without consciousness, there is no intelligence. But the consciousness does not require intelligence. Okay? What is the relationship between all knowledge and awareness? What is the final relationship?
All knowledge needs consciousness, but consciousness does not need all knowledge.
Excellent. So that means all knowledge has a dependent reality. It is
Consciousness.
yes. So that means
becomes mithya.
all knowledge is also mithya.
Nice.
Yes? You got it. Okay? All knowledge is also mithya because it has a dependent reality. It requires consciousness. Got it?
It's really like solving a mystery.
Yeah.
It's like you solve a mystery.
Yeah, you keep solving mystery. Every time you think you got there, but actually Vedanta shows you something more. It's mystery of life, absolutely, Shona.
So what you just, it's just named Chit. For our own understanding, it's named Sattva.
The chit is awareness, okay? So now first let me finish, then I'll come back because what you're asking is very, very good. Okay, it's not just one, it's true that it is a name, but why that name? I will come back to that question. It's a very important question. Okay? So now what? Even this all knowledge is what? As Preeti very rightly said, it has a dependent reality because the relationship between all knowledge and awareness is that in order for all knowledge to be, it cannot rest on an inert thing. You need consciousness. For any intelligence, you need consciousness. Without consciousness, there is no intelligence. Okay? But the consciousness does not need intelligence. So that means all knowledge is mithya, and this chit is the final satya. Okay, so that means it is sat, it is chit, and it is what? It is even when Ishvara says I am, just as when you say I am, you have negated all three and you have come to awareness. When Ishvara says I am, Ishvara also negates what? Virat, Hiranyagarbha and this Ishvara, and comes to the same awareness. Same awareness. Satyam, Jnanam, Anantam, Brahma. Satya, that awareness is what? It is existence, it is consciousness, and that consciousness is what? Limitless. Okay. This Ananda is not, please understand, Ananda is not used in the sense of bliss or anything. There is no such thing called bliss. It's just different degrees of happiness. And that happiness is experienced by the brain. We are not talking about brain experiencing something. We are talking about something very fundamental, because of which the entire physical universe is, because of which entire subtle universe is, because of which entire causal universe is. It's something which has no attribute. It's attribute-free, limitless awareness. Lord Krishna says, the one who understands my nature in reality also understands what? His own nature. There is a total identity. When I look into this side, what? Vishwa, Taijasa and Prajna, my physical body, my subtle body, my causal body, okay, and negate it as an object, and I come to what is my true nature as awareness. Okay. When I look into the truth of Ishvara, I also equally negate what? Virat, which is total physical universe. I negate the total subtle universe, and I negate the total causal universe as dependent reality, and I come to what? The same awareness. This is the equation. How? My God, I am equated to Ishvara? Yes, because the two parts are mithya. Okay, only one is Satyam. That one Satyam is free from all the attributes of what? Vyashti and Samashti. Vyashti is the individual and Samashti is what? The total. Example. I would like to use the example that Preeti gave, but I would use it slightly differently. Okay. On one hand, you have wave, a little wave, an insecure wave, who is what? Always very conscious of its form, the wave, is mortally afraid of going what? Going back to the shore and being extinct. While it is moving towards the shore, it looks at other waves and says, oh my God, look at that wave, that is so much bigger than me. Right? And that is so much more beautiful, and that one has so many more resources. And I am only an Indian Ocean wave, that one is Pacific Ocean wave. That one is Atlantic and the other one is Mediterranean. Oh my God, I am nobody. Then a wise wave comes and he says, hey, why are you having so many complexes? He says, yeah, because everywhere I look around, I always find somebody who is better than me. And also, I am going to go very soon, one day. So I'm full with insecurities, and I'm filled with anxieties, and I'm filled with fears, and I'm filled with sadness, and I don't quite know how to get rid of it. I've tried positive thinking, looking at some other waves who are even already there at the shore, but that doesn't really, it's just temporary. Doesn't really solve my problem. I've tried to meditate and I've tried to go beyond, and I still can't do it because I keep coming back. And I don't quite know how to get rid of this smallness that I'm stuck with. The wise man says, hey, you are suffering with an imaginary problem. What? What are you talking about? My vagueness is very true, and my distinction from everything else is very true. Now the wise wave says, hey, you know what? There is a bigger entity which contains all waves, which is the ocean. If you start seeing yourself as not just one isolated individual, separate from everything else, but if you start seeing yourself as one entity which is much bigger, which is the ocean, and see yourself as what? Part of that ocean, you will have some what? Sense of belonging. Okay? Now, with that understanding, the ocean, the wave starts to actually build on what? Becomes a little bigger. Gets rid of what? One's jealousies, because he sees other waves are also part of this ocean, doesn't compare as before, right? Behaves more responsibly towards other waves, grows as, seeing that I'm part of this great design of things, becomes bigger, becomes a contributor. Okay. So that means this is what we call the growth of this wave. When the wave has sufficiently grown, then knowing that I belong to this ocean, the wise person comes back and says, then the wave thinks, now I have really become bigger and better and a much more responsible human being, and I've got rid of my complexes, more or less. Now, what else? The Guru wave says, now you're ready for the final reality. What is there anything else to be known? Yes, there is still something else to be known. What is it that I need to know now? I have almost understood everything as ocean being the reality and I being part of the ocean. He says, no, there is one more reality. Please tell me, what is that other reality? You examine the form, wave, which has obviously limited what? It is limited in its width, limited in its height, limited in its character. It is true, right? But this waveness is what? Mithya. What is Satya? The wave depends upon what for its waveness? Water. Because the wave is a form, the entire form is pervaded by what? Water. There is nothing other than water in the wave. So that means when you are talking about this I, shift your I from this form to the content. The content is the water. Now you look at this whole big ocean, which is much bigger than a wave, and what is the content of the ocean? Water. All that is here is water, which is free from both the oceanness and waveness. It's free from both. Okay? The same reality, water, on one hand appears as the total, the ocean, and within the ocean every individual, every wave. But H2O, while being the ocean, water is always free from being the ocean. Ocean has a dependent reality because there is no entity called ocean without water. But does water depend upon the ocean for its existence? Not at all. You can find water in your tap. Okay? Vedanta. This frightened wave, a jiva. The ocean, Ishvara. You look at the truth of jiva, you will end up at what? Satyam, Jnanam, Anantam, Brahma. The existence, consciousness, and what? Existence and consciousness. You look at the truth of all knowledge, which has all power. You will end up where? Existence, consciousness.
What do you call it? Satyam?
Jnanam, Anantam,
And
Brahma.
Wave corresponds to Jiva. Ocean
Is
corresponds to the
Ishvara.
Ishvara.
And water will
Water
be
is the absolute reality. Water is all that there is.
water attendance.
Although it's an analogy.
Yes.
So it's, it doesn't need to be perfect analogy. But in this, is it water the material with which the ocean is made?
Yeah, exactly. This, oh my God, you are asking a very, very advanced question. Yes. So that means now what he's saying is very, very true.
What did
Very,
you
very
ask?
true. Okay. Now, if I've asked your question, now we have to go because we have to, now we will keep it for the next class because he is now asking some, I don't know whether you realize or not, but you are asking an excellent question. Ask.
I
Yes,
asked,
question for next time.
Yeah, we'll keep.
I just contemplate, okay? So that although this is just an analogy, the ocean one, and it doesn't need to be a perfect analogy. So if ocean corresponds to Ishwar and water to
Awareness, yes.
awareness, but I feel that ocean is made up of water. So water is the material with which ocean is made of. So ocean is dependent on water.
Ocean is not dependent upon water. I will explain to you. And this is something, now your last sentence is
Yeah,
not
the
true.
last-
The
yeah.
rest is true. So, you don't understand something wrong because tomorrow I'll spend a lot of time taking your confusion. So you just, so I will explain what he says and what is the answer. I will explain because it's a very good question.
Does this chitta awareness there for this bottle, pen?
Yes, because where is the connection? Very, very good question. Okay, where is, now her question is, if consciousness is everywhere, how come there are sentient and insentient objects? Sentient object is what? I, human being, am able to walk, but this table is not saying now, I also want to come with you to Paramartha Bhavan. Right? So that means, are you saying that there is also consciousness here? That's her question.
It's part of Ishvara which is dependent on it.
Excellent. My God, you people are geniuses. You have all the answers.
What is
Yeah, they all have answers. Yeah, that is correct. Your answer is right.
Yeah, it is Ishvara, which is all this, is intangible, whatever, living and non-living. And what is Ishvara dependent on? On awareness. So awareness is everywhere. Ishvara is dependent on it.
100 out of 100. like 20 years of Vedanta to answer this question. She's like this. What she's saying is absolutely right. Did you understand what she said?
A bit, but not
Okay.
total.
Okay, so now, just this one, that rush. Okay, now we have to
Now
go.
we have to go.
We will do. Because think about all these things. These are very, very, very good questions. I'm really happy. So now sleep over it and we'll see it tomorrow. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate Om